Karen, and today I'm going to talk to you about how we have an extreme shortage of mental health care facilities and programs in Washington State. Our state needs way more nonprofit sector care facilities and programs to fit the need of our growing population and all the people who are struggling through this COVID pandemic who either will or eventually might need access to more mental health care. I think as Washingtonians this is important, as we've seen over this past year, that we need to maintain our health and mental health to stay happy, healthy, functioning people. So my three main points I want to talk about today are the lack of facilities and beds in Washington State, what happens when the need isn't met, like what happens to the people, and then also how nonprofit care or like state-run facilities and outreach programs could really benefit our community. So we need as a state to have mental health programs that are accessible to all ages, all stages of life, all income, no income to high income, just regardless. So in 1973, there was a closure of a major mental health hospital in Cedar-Woolley. This place housed about 2,000 people. Although their means of care were not what we would be using this day and age in mental health treatment, there was a lot of people who went from having a place to be to not having a place to be. Some were dispersed, but not all were able to remain within a program. Governor Inslee recently approved some for-profit facilities for Thurston County, which is really great. But as I said, if you're low income, no income, you have state health care, and it doesn't cover the expenses of that, you're left with really limited access to care. You might be able to be seen once or in an emergency situation, but not in the consistent basis you need to get better or to help your mental health stabilize. So I know here we have a facility on Lilly Road that is in cohesion with St. Pete's in Fairfax, and they have about 85 beds. And that is great, but it still doesn't meet our need here in Washington. So what happens when this need isn't met is there's overcrowding. Or if somebody is arrested and they go to jail and they don't have the trained professionals, but they don't have anywhere to go, they hold them in jail. So the jail can become overcrowded, as well as the hospitals. At the emergency room here locally at St. Pete's, at any given time, there's about 10 beds designated specifically for mental health holds. There's also a little brick competency hearing building in Lacey behind the lumber yard out there that does like competency hearing trials, which is helping somebody get the competency training if they're able to become competent to stand trial or determine that they are not. That's one building for all of Thurston County. We need more access to care. When people don't have a place to go and seek like a group home, halfway home living situation where maybe they're not in patient care, but have a home to be in while seeking care and having some supervision, we're seeing people who are getting pushed out early. We're seeing people who are staying in the hospital because they have nowhere else to go, or they're on the streets. And this is really important to meet this need, especially as a community. Not for-profit care would be a really big benefit to our state, especially if we could get not just a state-run facility. It's not just about beds, but it's about the people and the access to the care. So we need to have facilities as well as like outpatient and outreach programs, like in the same manner that like a blood bank would drive to a specific designated area, where people who may be intimidated by walking into a mental health facility or hospital itself can seek out care or have trained professionals interacting with them, encourage them to get care for themselves, to take care of themselves. Kind of like restoring the faith in the system that it is open to all, accessible to all, and helpful to all. So it's not just about having more beds, having more bodies. It's about people who want to get involved and people who are properly trained to do so. So the lack of facilities and beds are pushing people out, either who still need the care but are emergently needing it, And when the needs aren't met, there's crowding in hospitals and jail. There's lack of trained professionals and access to care. The care that's privatized is not accessible to all. The state-run care is often at capacity. So what we really need to do is fight for legislation and funding being allocated to nonprofit programs. And I think that we need to not just focus on new programs, but broadening the existing programs so that we have access to care for all, especially after this really treacherous time of this pandemic where we've all had significant ups and downs from being stuck at home. Having all ages, everybody access to mental health care, I think is a huge need that needs to be filled. So I hope that you stand with me on this, and thank you for watching. Bye.